Greetings, brothers and sisters within the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion. It is I, your brother, Dion de Belmont, from the illustrious noble house of Belmont, as well as the Archbishop of the Third Temple English Church of England. And like we say here, as well as there, it is a beautiful time to be alive. I have to give honors to our forebears, to our Creator, as well as to our King, Clifford Jefferson from the Royal House of Plantagenet, our Queen Lisa Jordan from the Royal House of Galwetton, to the heirs, to our successors, to the members, the trustees, officers, to the loyal, wonderful people within the realm, as well as those who are practicing good, righteous deeds day in and day out. This is a beautiful lesson that's tailored specifically for today, because today is a special day for those of you who celebrate what they call Christmas. Alright? So for those of you who celebrate this holiday, enjoy it, appreciate it for what it is. For those of you who know the underlying story in regards to the symbolic meaning of it, teach it. Teach it to those who are ready to hear it and comprehend. Everyone is not ready for that talk, so understand your audience. But in this case, December 25th is a very special day for those who are descendants from the Kingdom of England. And it's not just a special day in regards of a day of celebration to have presents and to feast amongst your loved ones. This was a day that a specific king was crowned. The specific king was giving that new title of the King of England, when he shouldn't have been given the title in the first place. Some, he's known as a bastard. To others, he's known as the Conqueror. And in history, he's known as a feudal lord who brought in the feudal system. And altogether, he's known as William the Conqueror. Yes, brothers and sisters, December 25th is the day that William the Conqueror coronation took place. With him and his beautiful queen, Matilda of Flanders. So, today's lesson, we're going to go over the history of William the Conqueror, and then you will also have the ability to see an image of William the Conqueror that it seems like they don't want the world to see. Now, the cool part about this is I get to talk about him because based off of the history that's written down, they say William is related to my family, the Belmonts. So this is an honor to be able to call out a cousin who's known to do something he had no business to do. And in this case, to conquer a whole kingdom and bring in a system that placed those people in the upside down world. Because William the Conqueror himself was not a descendant of the House of Wessex, even though his wife, she was. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we go into the lesson. So please, brothers and sisters, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to give honors to the true de jure King of England, King Clifford Jefferson from the Royal House of Plantagenet. Once again, he's doing a marvelous job. Um, the amount of energy it takes to do this work, is impeccable. On top of, the assistance that we get is minuscule. But those who are helping us, thank you. Your work is definitely not done in vain. Everyone who's been helping, we remember and we know who you are. So you will be rewarded. But for others who think this is just a spectacle, continue to watch. You're going to be amazed at what the ancestors have left for us to uncover, for us long lost heirs. And for those of you who are ready to continue to keep doing good righteous deeds and random acts of kindness amongst the four corners of the world. Because like they say, angels return at the end of an age to save a specific people. And so those specific people can remember who they are to continue to bring balance and harmony back on this place that is known to harbor advanced biological life forms that we call sentient beings. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Once again, today is December 25th, 2974 of the Berber calendar, which is equivalent to your 2024 Gregorian calendar. And we have a nice little video that's going to go over about William the Conqueror. And for the image on the background, excuse me, I apologize. This is our Winchester Cathedral. Yes, it's beautiful, isn't it? Please admire the architect, because we have not been able to recreate it in our day and age. Yes, it is a wonder. And the beautiful part about this, there's many churches and cathedrals similar to the Winchester Cathedral. Alright, and if many of you see them in America or in other parts of Europe or even in Africa, take pictures of them, send them our way. Share your experience and the knowledge that you know about them, because we're trying to bring a narrative to light that's based off of facts, so therefore many of you can get an understanding of not only who we are, but who you are and what our forebears left for us. And the only way for us to do this is we have to do this through intelligence. Intelligence that's going to come through the intel, which means the heirs. So once again, let's go ahead and get started. And the reason why I wanted to bring back House of Names, because once again you see me as a descendant of the Belmont family, and like I spoke earlier in regards to William the Conqueror being related to my family, this is what it says. Early origins of the Belmont family. The surname Belmont was first found in Dorset and Gloucestershire, where Roger de Belmont appears in the Domesday Book as chief tenant. According to Sir H. Ellis, he was a near kinsman of the Conqueror, being lineal descendant of that king's great-grandfather. Some trace the noble English families from the Viscounts Beaumont of Normandy, and others from the blood royal of France. So I don't need to go any further in that. So as they say that William the Conqueror and the Beaumonts were related based off of having the same great-grandfather. Lineal descendant of the same great-grandfather. So, yes, we're cousins. Yes, we're cousins. And what have been known as ever since William the Conqueror came into the kingdom, and we're not saying that we support the aspect that he did in regards to doing it without having the proper authority to do so, even though he's saying that he got the authority from King Edward the Confessor. But that's, further clarity will have to be brought. Hopefully we'll find it. If not, we just got to accept it for what it is. But know that what William the Conqueror did was fraudulent, which placed the Kingdom of England in a de facto nature, because the true predecessors who should have been running it had to come from the Royal House of Wessex. So what William the Conqueror did brought in the Anglo-Norman Kingdom of England, no longer the Anglo-Saxon Kingdom of England. Alright, so let's go ahead and get to the next slide. To verify, it says William the Conqueror is crowned king on Christmas Day in 1066. So December 25th, 1066, after defeating of King Harold II, that was the Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror was crowned king at Westminster Abbey. So let's go back and show you Westminster Abbey. This Westminster Abbey, you see the beautiful Christmas lights on there once again, and it's where William the Conqueror was crowned. So if you haven't had the opportunity, brothers and sisters, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that therefore you can be notified when a new video has either been uploaded or when we go live. Also, once again, don't forget to do the same thing on the Third Temple English Church of England YouTube channel, headed by the true de jure King of England, King Clifford Jefferson from the Royal House of Plantagenet. Once again, that is the true de jure King of England, King Clifford Jefferson from the Royal House of Plantagenet. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started on the video. And once again, the cool thing about this is because I get to bring information to the day, or to the light of day, that many people have not seen. Of course, those within the Third Temple English Church have seen it, but for those of you who haven't got a chance to see this on my platform, because we know that the algorithm is weird in regards to who is going to get through and who's not going to get through. But as you can see, we're going to be bringing information that many folks have not heard before, especially from who's the one speaking it. And it's going to be cool and refreshing, because now you can kind of start putting yourself into the picture, because yes, you were involved. And when I mean you were involved, I mean those who you come from were involved in this history. So now that makes you an inheritor of what I'm talking about. All right, so with that being said and understood, let's move forward.
Is probably best known for its depiction in the Bayeux Tapestry, which details the events of the Battle of Hastings in 1066. However, William had an incredible impact on the world, far beyond that of a single battle. He was born at Falaise Castle in the northwest of France around 1027 CE. His father was Robert I, Duke of Normandy, and his mother a commoner named Herleva. Historians believe that William was born out of wedlock. At the time, this was not an issue, as his mother was most likely a concubine of the Duke, and the offspring of an official mistress had the same rights as legitimate children. Decades after he died, scribes who disliked him as a ruler used the situation of his birth to discredit his reign. The feudal system in France meant that although France was a kingdom, it consisted of many independently governed local regions. These principalities had developed following Viking invasions, and each was struggling to gain more power and territories. As William would often travel with his father, it is clear that he would be Robert I's legitimate successor. He is mentioned at least 7 times in monastic charters that would write the name of the noble followed by that of the heir. As he was the ruler's firstborn son, he attended many meetings. These meetings were often in church, so William had a good grasp of Latin and held the written word in high regard. This did not mean that he was literate. He could speak and understand basic Latin. He also was taught to fight and hunt, as well as learning the intricacies of court life. William had a loving childhood, close to his mother and father, and grew into a handsome and strong young man. In 1035, when William was about 8 or 9, his father died during a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Before Robert I had left, he had asked the lords to accept William as their military commander and rightful heir, which they did readily. So when news of Robert's death reached Normandy, William was affirmed as ruler immediately. William's family ties were extensive, and his father's donations to the church had been generous, so it was a prudent move for the clergy and aristocracy not to try and usurp the young monarch. As he was considered too young to rule, he had guardians that both taught him and governed in his stead. In 1042, William officially began to act as duke at the age of 15. He was keen to assert himself, as there had been a brief rebellion while he was still underage. He won his first military campaign about a year after officially gaining his title. William demonstrated his ambition to rule with both combat prowess and tactical marriages. Even at 15, William knew his best strategy would be to maintain unity. Before the decade was out, William and his entourage had grown into a mighty political force in the region, and other influential people started to take notice. Guy of Burgundy, the Count of Brionne, was William's cousin and had been his childhood companion for a short while. As the youngest son of Count Reginald I, he was unable to ascend to the throne of his father, so he set his sights on William's. He possibly used William's supposed illegitimacy to strengthen his case and found support among nobles who were dissatisfied with William's rule. Most of these co-conspirators were old, set in their ways, and saw William as a young man determined to govern using new methods. Towards the end of 1046, when William was 19, he fled Normandy after an assassination attempt. He traveled to Poissy, near Paris, to meet with King Henry I. In the summer of 1047, he returned to rally his troops. His army met with King Henry's at Caen and marched on the plain of Valladolid to fight the rebels. Despite being outnumbered, William and Henry's forces prevailed, beating back the rebel army to the River Orne. They forced soldiers into the river to drown and slaughtered any survivors. They were uncommonly brutal, perhaps to solidify their victory, a tactic that William would employ throughout his life. Guy of Burgundy retreated to his castle, which William's army then besieged for 2 years until Guy submitted. William pardoned Guy and allowed him to stay at his castle under a house arrest of sorts. Guy was humiliated, having lost all of his castles and land.
It's easier than
So far as you can see, what William the Conqueror has been known to do, and his war tactics have been quite brutal. And as we can see, this is something that many people don't know about. They don't know about his origin story. They don't know the reason why he got started. They don't know that not only was he literate in Latin, but he didn't actually even speak English. So that's quite a feat for him to be able to be ruling a kingdom and actually didn't even speak the language of those he was ruling. But let's go ahead and continue the video.
His older brother. The victory at Valladolid would be enough to secure William 5 years without a rebellion. William then began to elevate his closest allies into positions of power within Normandy. Tensions between Normandy and Anjou were growing, and William decided to go to war with one of the most powerful lords in the region, Geoffrey Martel. In 1051, Martel took the province of Maine. In response, William laid siege to 2 towns, Alençon and Domfront, on the border of Normandy and Maine, who had risen in support of Anjou. First, he attacked Domfront, which caused Martel to withdraw. But the Domfront held out on their own and refused to surrender. William then continued to Alençon. The garrison inside the town began to mock William's mother, namely her heritage. William became so enraged, he ordered his soldiers to burn the place down and chop off the hands and feet of the mockers. Alençon surrendered, at which point William returned to Domfront, who immediately followed suit after hearing what had happened at Alençon. William had no time to rest, as King Henry I had allied with Geoffrey Martel. Despite being a former ally of William,
Now, Geoffrey Martel that they're speaking of, or the image that they're showing, that's supposed to be actually Godfrey V, Count of Anjou. example, Godfrey de Martel, which Martel means the hammer, he is also the son of Fulk IV. But let's go ahead and continue.
William, King Henry I was not pleased with William's successes, as he wanted to expand his power and did not want such a dominant rival. In 1054, William was victorious against King Henry's troops in the Battle of Mortimer. The battle ended with a truce between William and Henry, but King Henry and Geoffrey Martel would again invade Normandy 3 years later. In the meantime, William was attending to personal matters. He married Matilda, daughter of the court of Flanders, and together they would have 7 children before his famous campaign in 1066. William's strong marriage and growing family, along with papal support, increased his power and influence. In 1057, King Henry and Martel attacked again. This time, William waited for them to advance across Normandy. His patience paid off, and he defeated them with a surprise attack from behind. Henry and Martel barely escaped with their lives. Their army was not so lucky. William was brutal in his slaughter of the soldiers, far beyond the usual standards of the time. His atrocities gave him a reputation fierce enough that no other foreign force would invade Normandy during his lifetime. With Normandy united under his rule, William looked to expand his empire, and his eyes were on England. England was a country of invaders, and power was constantly changing hands. The noble families of Europe and Scandinavia were so intertwined during this period that many men could lay a claim to prominent titles, however tenuous. In the court of Edward the Confessor, who ruled from 1042 until January 1066, was a Norman noble, Robert of Jumièges. Robert quickly rose from Bishop of London to Archbishop of Canterbury and often clashed with English noble Earl Godwine. This feud would result in the deaths of the two men, a succession crisis in England, and William's invasion of England. Earl Godwine planned to rise up against the king, Edward the Confessor. Upon learning about this upcoming conflict, Robert of Jumièges fled to Normandy and subsequently was outlawed as a criminal. During this time, Robert met with William and informed him that Edward had named William as heir to the throne of England. Back in England, Godwine's rebellion had come to nothing. He remained Earl of Wessex and was succeeded by his son, Harold Godwinson. Edward named Harold his successor on his deathbed, and Harold Godwinson was crowned the day after the old king died, January 6, 1066. William's power had been steadily growing in the years leading up to 1066. Both of his significant rivals had died, and Henry's son was only 8 when the king passed, so he was not of age to rule. One of the regents who ruled in his stead was none other than William's father-in-law. William went on to have several successful and brutal military campaigns, which left him with many powerful allies. Upon Edward the Confessor's death, there were a few claimants to the throne, so Harold was well aware that his position as king was not secure, and that William was one of the many preparing to invade England. Harold decided William was his most significant threat, and within a few months had amassed his troops and stationed them along the English coast. William wasted no time gathering his allies and gaining permission from the Catholic Church to justly invade England. By August, the two armies, both roughly the same size, had gathered on the opposing shores of the English Channel. However, William postponed crossing the Channel until late September, when Harold traveled north to face other invaders. Once in England, William set up camp at Pevensey, building a wooden fort as a temporary headquarters while raiding the surrounding countryside. At Hastings, he used an old Iron Age fort as his base, continuing the looting and raiding to crush local morale and sustain his troops. Harold was essentially fighting a war on 2 fronts, and by the time he got back to the south, he found the land and people utterly ravaged. Hoping to catch William by surprise, he headed for the coast, but William's scouts spotted him. On October 14th, the armies finally met each other in combat. The fighting lasted from morning until dusk, making it one of the longest battles in medieval history. William's men used feigned retreats to encourage the English soldiers to advance, only to turn and massacre them. The battle was as bloody as it was lengthy. Harold lost his life, with some reports claiming it was an arrow to the head. William's men continued to slaughter the English soldiers well into the night, with William refusing to spare anyone or take any prisoners. Some written sources mention that, come daybreak, William allowed the survivors to bury their dead, including Harold Godwinson. who was most likely buried at Waltham Holy Cross Church. William continued raiding and pillaging the south until he reached London, and on Christmas Day, 1066, he was crowned king. He immediately started giving lands to his closest collaborators, as well as nobles who had submitted to him early in his campaign. William had plenty of rebellions to quash, and this was nothing unusual for the new king and his followers. He commissioned the building of various castles to station troops and asserted that he was in charge. In May 1068, he had his wife Matilda crowned Queen of England. William's reign as monarch of England echoed his early years as Duke of Normandy. He was a harsh and brutal ruler, meeting rebellions by murdering thousands of people, burning villages, and sacking any towns that dared oppose him. But ruling both England and Normandy proved to be a monumental task. In 1070, trouble started brewing for him. Back in France, he lost territories. Rebels had overthrown some of his allies. And sometime between 1070 and 1071, his second son Richard died in a hunting accident. Then a large-scale rebellion, the Revolt of the Earls, took place in 1075, which William dealt with in his usual style. Around 1077, William's eldest son Robert, later known as Curthose, meaning short stocking, started to feel sidelined. He was old enough to take power, but William wasn't about to give any up. Robert staged a rebellion in Normandy, which nearly ended in William's death. Afterward, Robert remained the heir of Normandy and reconciled with his father, but with a strained relationship. On November 2, 1083, William's wife Matilda, Queen of England, died, leaving William devastated. William had many legacies, one being the famous Doomsday Book. This lengthy text, commissioned in 1085, contains a survey of all the lands and properties held by him and his supporters. In addition, it included names of counties, tax assessments, and available resources. Modern historians have found it an invaluable reference for life during William's reign. William's final year was no less eventful than his previous ones. He returned to France in 1086 and arranged the marriage of his daughter to Alan, the Duke of Brittany. Even in his late years, he was still forming allegiances and waging wars. During the Siege of Monte, he fell ill. Before he died, he named his eldest son, Robert Curthose, as his successor in Normandy. William's second son, William Rufus, became King William II of England, while his youngest son, Henry, received a financial inheritance. He also ordered the distribution of money to the poor, and all of his prisoners were to be released. William died on September 9, 1087, at the age of 59. The King of England and the most powerful man in northern France had truly earned the moniker Conqueror. To learn more about William the Conqueror, check.
Okay, so there you have it, brothers and sisters, from the video regarding William the Conqueror. As you can see, he was coronated or crowned the King of England after his successful campaign against the Anglo-Saxon King of England, Harold Godwinson, which was known as the Battle of Hastings. This which pretty much created the new feudal system that was going to be running rampant throughout the kingdom, as we pretty much got a quick overall view in how he ran the kingdom and all the way up until his demise at the age of 59. So if you want to go ahead and get more information on that, you can go ahead and do some research on it. It's pretty much open and available for anyone who wants to know their history, especially those of you who are descendants from the Kingdom of England, Great Britain, or aka Empire of Albion. You need to know that, or even Normandy in France. You need to know this information. And as they showed you once again, that he was married to Queen Matilda, but we're going to show you his coronation of William the Conqueror. And Matilda says coronation of William the Conqueror as King of England took place at Westminster Abbey, as the video showed you, in London on December 25th, 1066, following the Norman Conquest of England. Alright, and that's just a quick image. Now, I want you all know that all of the images that you see pretty much are whitewashed. They're underneath what they call artistic license, which give the creator the ability to create the images of these people who they'll call characters and the likeness that they felt them to represent, to tell the story. So you have to understand that, especially the time when a lot of this is being done. Now we do have an image from the 1066 MS Roll Scroll from Penn University, and they said that the MS Roll Scroll was created in the 15th century, if I'm not mistaken, either 15th or 16th century, and we're going to look at that here momentarily. Alright, so we want to take a look at his queen, which was Queen Matilda of Flanders. Like they said, he was devastated when she passed away. William and Matilda had quite a few heirs based off of the history. They said that they never had any issues within their marriage regarding infidelity, and all of their children were pretty much created in the house. None of them were illegitimate. I don't know why I said in house, but none of them were considered illegitimate. It says Matilda of Flanders, and this is another reason you need to know this too, because William himself wasn't a descendant of the House of Wessex, but Matilda, she was, and she was a descendant from a descendant of Elfrith, the Countess of Flanders, who was the daughter of King Alfred the Great, who was the father and progenitor of the House of Wessex and the Kingdom of England. But they would say King Ethelstan was technically the first king of England, but I would say King Alfred the Great, based off of, the history. Anywho, so it says Matilda of Flanders was Queen of England and Duchess of Normandy by marriage to William the Conqueror, and a regent means just as a temporary ruler of Normandy during his absences from the duchy. She was the mother of 9 children who survived to adulthood, including 2 kings, William II and Henry I. And for those of you who know about Henry I, he's known as the father of the Commonwealth of England. And the Commonwealth of England technically was started by the House of Wessex via King Alfred the Great, when he incorporated the Alfred Code, the Mosaic Code, the Christian Code of Ethics, as well as the 10 Commandments, or the 10 Commandments from the Bible, which all are the foundation of the Commonwealth of England that we see and recognize today. Alright, so it says in 1031, Matilda was born into the House of Flanders, the only daughter of Count Baldwin, the 5th of Flanders and Adela of France. And like the video was speaking about, how the families pretty much had heirs all over, who pretty much had the ability to make a claim to specific houses or titles. And like they were saying, but everyone didn't have a right, even though they was making a so-called claim. Just because you're making a claim don't mean you had a rightful claim. It says Flanders was of strategic importance to England and the most of Europe as a stepping stone between England and the continent. And that's, like I was saying, in regards to William the Conqueror. The House of Flanders, through Matilda, is how he was able to forge his way into the kingdom, and then plant his seed into the seed, or to the heirs of the bloodline of the kings of Wessex. And we're going to go ahead and show you that here momentarily. So it says, once again, Flanders was of strategic importance to England and most of Europe as a stepping stone between England and the continent, necessary for strategic trade and for keeping the Scandinavian intruders from England. In addition, her mother was the daughter of Robert II of France. For these reasons, Matilda was of grander birth than William. See, so she was ranked higher than William when it came down to, power and status. She literally came from royalty. In addition, not saying that he didn't, it would just depend on the territory that he came from, who had more influence. In addition, her mother was the daughter of Robert II of France. For these reasons, Matilda was of grander birth than William, who was illegitimate. And remember, he was illegitimate because for you to take specific titles, especially during this time, you had to be married through the church, and it had to be done through a legitimate marriage. So back then, bastardy was very frowned upon. Today, people just not, taking it as serious as it was done historically, which they actually had laws against, children being born out of bastardy for both parents, mother and father. All right, so it says, and according to some romantic tellings of the story, she initially refused his proposal on this account. Like many royal marriages of the period, it breached the rules of consanguinity. Then, at their most restrictive, Matilda and William were third cousins once removed. And like they said back then, a lot of people were related, who were marrying each other. They were closer than not. And that's, as you see, was not something that they frowned upon, but they frowned upon. She was about 20 when they married in 1051, 1052. William was some 4 years older and had been Duke of Normandy since he was about 8. So, for those of you who don't understand the impact of this information, especially the fact that he has been Duke of Normandy since the age of 8, that means he's been ruling. He has been a young ruler, which means he had to be competent in his position since the age of 8. And today we have adults who are in their 30s and 40s who at an 8th grade level in reading, some who ain't not even there. So that lets you know that back then, historically, not only was there a big focus of those who were considered rulers or leaders, you had to be intelligent. You had to have a level of intelligence to be in these positions of power, especially if you're going to be considered a king or a duke or a governor or a governess or a viscount or a bishop or whatever. If you were known as anyone of influence, especially those families of nobility or royalty, you had to be intelligent. And as you can see, the intelligence was spread amongst the heirs, the family, the bloodline, because they were so close in their marriages. So that means that a lot of the information of knowledge and wisdom is going to be kept close, nice and tight. Not everyone is going to know. All right. So that's all we need to know about Queen Matilda of Flanders. Once again, without her, William the Conqueror truly wouldn't had a true position to wedge himself or his posterity into the history book, because there won't be any heirs from a reputable lineage that would be able to have say. And then once again we have Queen Elthryth, the Countess of Flanders. As you can see, she was also known as Elftrida or Elfrida, and she was the English princess and Countess Consort of Flanders to Baldwin II. She was the youngest daughter of Alfred the Great, the Saxon King of England, and his wife Elswith. They normally have an image of Queen Elswith so you can see how she looked. She's melanated, looked just like us. Her siblings included King Edward the Elder and Ethelflaed. And Ethelflaed, they don't have the right image of her on there once again. But I'm going to show you William the Conqueror. Through the 1066 MS roll. Alright, and here we go from Penn Libraries. It said MS roll 1066, a genealogical chronicle of the kings of England to Edward IV, circa 1461. And we know Edward IV was the king of the royal house of, the king of the House of York. The House of York is the cadet branch of the Royal House of Plantagenet. One of the cadet branches, it was York and Lancaster. Or so it says, likely produced in the third quarter of the 15th century, the genealogical chronicle of the kings of England to Edward IV, known as University of Penn MS Roll 1066, is a compilational tour de force of the greatest hits of medieval historians assimilating the work of Godfrey of Monmouth, William of Malmesbury, and Rayner of Higden, among others. The roll is an imposing physical presence, a staggering 37 feet and 13 membranes long. That's amazing, people. It chronicles the lineage of Yorkist King Edward IV, beginning with Adam and Eve and ending with Edward IV, 1461. So, once again, this is a record, a genealogical depiction based off of all of the historical accounts tied together in this, I don't know what to call it, beyond this, I would call it a megalith of this amount of information that's actually into this to this roll. So this is going to give you an idea of how the pedigrees were composed so they can keep record of who came from who. All right. It says this chronicle also has a complex illustrative schema containing 174 bust-length portraits in color, 5 mandolas with 10 full-length portraits, and 80 roundels containing crowns, as well as several classic chronicle-type scenes, including the Temptation of Adam, Noah after the flood, and the city of Jerusalem. The Latin text is written in the standard late medieval Anglicana hand. So let's go ahead and take a look at this MS rolls, brothers and sisters. Once again, thank you, King Clifford Jefferson, for finding this information and bringing it to us. So therefore, now I can be able to also do these lessons to show those long lost heirs that not only you are who you say you are, but you're bringing us back our conscious, which is known as our memories. So therefore, we can step into our position, because you must be who your predecessors were, going back to our ancient times, which we call time immemorial. Time immemorial was actually the year 1189. This information predates 1189, so now they consider customary. So anything that was known to be done prior to that date is part of who we are and our actions. Then we don't really truly need to show you where this information came from, as long as we've been practicing it prior to the year 1189. But we'll talk about that in another video. I just want you to kind of get an idea of who who William the Conqueror was, even though he was a king. But I don't normally say that title. I always call him William the Conqueror. So King William the First, which they call him. All right, so let's go take a look at it. So we're going all the way down to where it says membrane 11, Edmund first to William the Conqueror. And don't forget, brothers and sisters, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Also donate for those of you who are generous and want to contribute to this great movement. Cash App $ English Church. You know, you're going to be helping the church tremendously by you giving any contributions that you want to help, because we are in a state of emergency. There's not many heirs right now who have stepped up and recognized who they are to want to help and do this great work for our salvation in this day and time. So once again, for those of you who have, thank you, really appreciate you. Also too, we're going to have a lot more literature to be able to bring to those of you who want to be able to share the information on your free time or whenever you can. Other than that, continue to keep sharing these videos the best way you know how. You can share, send them to the web address, which is thirdtempleenglishchurch.com, and on there we'll have the contact information where you can go ahead and reach out to us. For those of you who want to become members of the Third Temple English Church of England, you can reach that information on there as well. So once again, thank you for spending this much time watching the video, because you're not going to get this information from anywhere else unless you are a member of the Third Temple English Church of England. Alright, and as we can see right on the bottom right hand is, which we're going to show you Alright, so like it said, it starts from Edmund. Edmund the First. I'm gonna go all the way up to the top. See Edmund the First. And we're just gonna go straight to the bottom, like we're not even gonna go through all. I just want to show you how you can verify and see who is who. So as you can see, as a highlight over the image, it says Edmundus, which just means King Edmund. And let's go ahead and go in a little bit closer to take a look at King Edmund. And definitely looks like the brown depiction complexion on there, but we can't say for sure with him. Let's try this out some more. Alright. Wish I could get this be wider, but it can't. We are focused because we want to see William the Conqueror. And as we can see, this is the last one, so this has to be William. See the line coming in, showing that it's outside lineage. So everyone before William are all lineage from the House of Wessex, and he would be considered the one who married or bred into the line. Alright, that's what this line is showing, because now we need to see how William looks, and we want to know for sure this is William. Now this is on, let's verify so you can see again, this is on Penn Libraries, University of Pennsylvania, so I'm not making this up. And it says coming in. First, let's take a look. Look at him. Look at him. Look at the nose. Look at the lips. Skin complexion. You see, they were trying to take it out, but you can see the brown skin, the lips, big lips, which they constitute the so-called Negroid features. Brown hand, looked like they were trying to take the color out again, like brown hand. But the lips and the brown skin up here is telling. Now we need to know who this is, because I'm kind of giving you an idea, but we want to read it for ourselves, so therefore there's no speculation. Right click. Alright, so right click on the outside of the border, and it says who? It says William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror. Pull it up. Exit out. A little bit closer so you can see. Outside sound. William the Conqueror. So why haven't anyone ever showed us this image of William the Conqueror? So you mean tell me you go from, let me pull him up closer. William the Conqueror, it says William the Conqueror. So from here to this guy, definitely not the same dude. Definitely not the same guy. Definitely not the same guy. from here to this. So we see there's a cover up. There has been a cover up. But from the record, since they said that he's related to me, and you all see me down here at the bottom left hand corner, you know, it will make sense. And the record says that, says Roger de Belmont appears in the Domesday Book as chief tenant. According to Sir H. Ellis, he was a near kinsman of the Conqueror, being lineal descendant of that king's great grandfather. So lineal descendant, that means cousins, and that means definitely should look the same when it comes down to genes, especially when they're saying how close in consanguinity that these people were actually marrying each other, and they was marrying each other close. They were clearly having children close, and it came down to blood lineage. So that's what it says about me. You see my image right there on the left. You see, once again, William the Conqueror on the MS 1066 scroll. Complexion and all, brown. And he don't look anything like how they have him depicted. So once again, brothers and sisters, you must do your genealogy. You must do your genealogy. You must read the books that you overlook, especially because since 1740, you didn't truly have a true idea regarding who you are because of the 1740 Anti-Literacy Act. But now those days are over, if you want them to be over, because as one of your kinfolk, your brothers, you know, I am here, as well as those within the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion, who are trustees, have kept this information here for you to be able to find yourself. And it's up to you to truly want to accept it. And I'm letting you know that the true King of England, the Jor King of England, is King Clifford Jefferson from the Royal House of Plantagenet. Not the United Kingdom Charles III. That's the United Kingdom's monarch. He don't have the right to be called the King of England because he is not based off of consanguinity or just sanguine. They are not the true heirs. Let's continue. So now that you got a chance to see the true William the Conqueror, and you see today, which is December 25th, is his coronation day. His coronation day is the day that he defeated the last Anglo-Saxon king and became the de facto feudal king. But we know that feudalism has been abolished, which means that it reverts back to what it was prior to the Battle of Hastings, which was what? Allodial land. And who owns the title of allodial land? The King of England. And the King of England holds a land allodial for who? For the kinfolks, the people as a whole. Yes. So what William did was he came in and brought in a system that parceled it out, took it away from what the people in Anglo-Saxon England had it as. Alright, and that's what the de jure King of England has come to do now, to fix what William done erroneously.